We have this really large wood pile that has just sort of existed for the last few years since we took down some trees, and there's quite a few logs in here that are pretty challenging to process by hand, the way that I do everything. And so I was trying to think of some creative ways that I could use some of these logs without having to split them and use them for firewood. I think I have an idea for a new compost bin that might work if it's made out of logs. Here's just a nice little view of the sky on this bright, sunny, unseasonably warm day in March in the northeastern US. So I'm thinking I can position these logs in a circle, much like a bin out of chicken wire would be. And in the vicinity of it, you would have seen earlier the existing chicken wire bin that's full, and I'm letting it do its thing. And the handmade bin out of an old screen door that lays in front of it. That's the one I'm currently adding to. So this won't be used for a little while, but I'm kind of getting it set, taking advantage of the warm weather to get some things set up while I can before the garden needs to be tended to. For some reason in my head, I thought that these logs would fit a little bit more seamlessly together, but in spots there are some large gaps. So I'm taking the bark from some of the logs where it's easily peeling off and stuffing that in between the space in order to close that off so that when we add things to it and it starts to turn, that it doesn't just sort of roll out of the logs. And hopefully this will help keep critters from crawling through there, though I know it'll happen anyway to some degree, but this might thwart some of that activity in the meantime. There we have it. We already have a nice carbon base with all these leaves that fall from those giant trees that I showed earlier. This is where I'm sure some rodents will make their way in and out, but hopefully they make their way back out. We'll see. This is an experiment, so whatever happens will happen. As we make our way over to the other side, I wanted to stop. Here's a little fort that I made for the kids a couple of years ago. Pretty simple. Put some paving stones that were reclaimed on the bottom there, or slabs, I guess. And then the roof is a shrub I took down and threw up there. And it's worked well. With all the snow that we had over the winter, there were plenty of times where it was completely dry under there. Maybe someday the kids will use it more. So on this side we have a few other logs. The pile is much smaller, but there's still several over here that are very bug-ridden. They're just sort of quickly decaying, and I thought it makes more sense to try to fashion something out of them versus chop them up and burn them for anything other than a bonfire, which I don't often have. And so I thought similarly, put them in a circle pattern and then get some soil and some compost, fill that up, and make an herb garden out of it. Basically a raised herb garden bed, and have tasty and medicinal herbs scattered throughout there for this year. We'll see if it works in any way, shape, or form, or if it just sort of doesn't. Time will tell. Now, instead of taking bark, because many of these logs already have their bark stripped off, I found some, decent sized thickness or decent size in diameter sticks that I could break up and shove them down in between the logs in order to close off some of the gap. In this instance, it's not so much to keep pests and rodents out because it'll be filled with soil and compost. It's more so to help ensure that that stays in the circle and doesn't just perpetually fall out. So we'll see how that goes. I may need to add some more in here over time.